How's it going, everybody? This is Kevin Kring with College Golf Local, and I'm so excited to welcome in our guest for today. He's a guy who normally does not need much of an introduction, but I'm going to brag on him just a little bit. He's been a friend and a wonderful encouragement for me for a decade and a half. I took my unofficial visit to Oklahoma State the day he was named head coach. He met with me the morning he was signing the paperwork, which I think talks about the character of him, that he was willing to meet with a sophomore in high school like me and show me around the campus and facilities that same day. But I'm excited to bring him on here. But before I kick it off to him, I want to just brag on some of his accolades just a little bit, because I know he's not the kind of guy who's going to talk about himself in that way. He is going on his 6th year as the head coach of the Baylor men's golf team, following 8 years at Oklahoma State. He's won a national championship back in 2006 at Oklahoma State. I know he has won the National Coach of the Year multiple times. And also recently, Coach, you authored a book, Better Than You Found It. So you're well-rounded, you're a wonderful guy, and I am so grateful for you to join us today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Kevin. Thanks for having me on. It's a real pleasure and an honor. Yeah, my very first unofficial visit at Oklahoma State. You're the guy. You were the man.
Do you remember anything about that besides probably me having way too much hair on my head or anything like that? Maybe asking too many questions?
I do remember a gigantic amount of hair up there, just going all sort of frizzed. And you were on your way to Norman to play in a junior golf tournament. And you told me you were going to look around that campus too. And I told you that wouldn't even be, it'd be a waste of your time. But
I'd be lying. Honestly, I was so blown away by you and Oklahoma State. I remember I was 15 playing in a tournament with 16 to 18-year-olds, and I won it by like 3 shots. And I was like, I'm going to play for Coach McGraw. And while it didn't work out that way, I was definitely pretty jazzed to have gotten to spend some time with you. And you set the bar pretty high. That was my first visit. That was a tough one to beat.
Yeah, I remember it well.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you taking some time to join us today. You know, what I'm doing here with College Golf Locals, I'm just trying to educate mostly the kids here in their families in Southwest Missouri, just about the recruiting process. And I know you're down there in Waco, Texas, which isn't exactly right next to us, but you know, a lot of kids, whenever they all start to have those aspirations of playing college golf, they dream big. They dream of playing at Baylor, Alabama, Oklahoma State, schools like that. And sometimes it works out for them, sometimes it doesn't. But I think getting a perspective from someone like you and kind of what you're looking for from kids when you're looking for them and stuff like that, this will be a really valuable conversation that we have. And hopefully we can educate people and teach them what this is all about. So all that said, I kind of wanted to throw my first question to you. And basically, it's, how do you start the recruiting process? What does it take for a kid who you've never heard of, seen play, anything like that, to then be on your list of people that you are following their scores, reaching out to them when that's permissible? Just kind of talk about that kind of arc of the process.
Well, this is going to seem a little harsh, but the true reality is good golf starts everything. So it just does. And if you're talking about a kid who averages 69 or a kid who averages 89, they're not going to be seen or be interested in the same schools. It's just not going to happen. So good golf is going to take care of a lot. That's pretty much the way it is the rest of this process. Good golf makes you an All-American in college. Good golf makes you a Korn Ferry Tour player. Good golf on the Korn Ferry Tour makes you a PGA Tour player. Good golf there makes you world famous. So good golf does set the stage for everything we're going to do in recruiting. But aside from that, I look at a pool of golfers that I think are good enough to help our school. And I look within that pool, I kind of filter things down based upon geography. I filter things down based upon a GPA, if a kid's a good student or not. I just keep filtering it down. So I do my job on the front side of finding all the players I think are good enough to play at Baylor. And then from there, the ones that fit, that make sense. And that gets quite a bit smaller and pretty fast. And I would encourage every parent and every prospect to do the same. Figure out all the schools you think you'd love to go to, then figure out the ones that geographically you're not so sure of, and then the ones that are, you know, out. You just got to be honest with yourself about these are the ones that fit me the best. and then go. I wish there was a computer database where all the coaches put in all their information, all the players and prospects put in their information, and the computer just figured it all out, spit out, Coach McGraw, these are the 4 kids you should recruit in 2022. And little Jimmy Smith, these are the 5 schools you should be interested in. We don't have that yet, but I know the technology is there to make it happen. We just don't have it yet. So
sounds like you're the guy to spearhead that sort of thing.
no,
At least the idea
I
behind it,
barely
right?
got this computer turned on this morning to get this call going. So no, I'm not the guy.
Well, I know what you mean, though. I mean, throughout the process, I mean, it's one thing that I'm telling kids around here is cast a very wide net, because if you only focus on 2 schools and then those 2 schools don't work out, it's like you need to have such a wide net that there's backup plans. You know, it might not be the dream or the 1A, but throw the net out wide, and you never know what's going to happen, because I'm sure you can speak to it as well, as just if you're a kid who does not end up at Baylor, ending up at a small school and playing and having that sort of experience and kind of having that team as your family is an invaluable sort of opportunity that doesn't exist if you just go to a big school and you're just kind of a small fish in a big ocean.
Use the word opportunity. That's all you really need is an opportunity. If you have dreams of playing the PGA Tour, you're not going to achieve that by sitting on the bench at the University of Alabama or Baylor or Oklahoma State and watching these teammates of yours travel to tournaments. You need to get in a place where you're going to be competitive and where you have a chance to play. And I would look at Zach Johnson as probably the greatest example. And I can't wait till he writes a book one day, because this story will be told about how he grew up an Iowa Hawkeyes football fan. And he was a golfer, and he was just okay. He wasn't a great high school golfer by any stretch, but he phoned the Iowa coach, whose team was ranked about 125th in the country. And he asked, can I come for a visit? And he said, why do you want to come for a visit? He said, well, I just want to talk to you about walking on at Iowa. Now, I'm paraphrasing this whole story. I'm not positive it's completely accurate, but the gist of it is, and that is, the coach told him, no, come on, Zach, you're not good enough to walk on here. You're not good enough. And that was the 125th ranked team in the country. And he wasn't probably good enough to have any impact on their team. So he went to Drake, a mid-major school where he was able to play. And he wasn't the number 1 man his whole career, but he did find his way into the lineup. And before you knew it, he graduated and then went out and played mini tours and was okay there, and then figured out how to be good on the mini tours. And then he became a nationwide tour player. And then anyway, long story short, if Zach hadn't gone someplace where he could play and compete and develop his game, he never would have been what I think is a World Golf Hall of Fame career. It never would have happened. So I would encourage every parent, every prospect, think about where you can go that will allow you to compete for a spot and become a player who has developed his skills during those 4 years. To sit on the bench for 4 years is not developing anybody's skills. It develops your bench sitting skills, but that's about it.
Right. And I look back at my time at Colorado, and honestly, my favorite memories from my time there are times waiting around in the airport, in the van, driving to and from tournaments, you know, practice rounds, those dinners in random cities all around the world. Those are my favorite memories. It's not like, oh, here's a qualifier that I didn't make it through. It's the kind of small moments with your team on the road. And that's the same thing I would say, travel, go to somewhere you can make the top 5 and you're playing.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, is that dog of mine barking bothering you, or can you hear it?
Not me at all. Hey, I like it.
Okay. Well, that's
we're all making do right now.
I can't get him out of there.
Next question I was going to ask you, I know you kind of touched on it, Good Golf takes care of everything, but what other things are you looking for in potential recruits, maybe beside Good Golf?
Well, I think when a recruit puts references on his resume, that's good, because you want to talk to people like maybe a counselor at the school, minister at church, youth counselor, high school coach, different people that could speak to his character. So I'm looking for character. I don't think, you can't choreograph your whole life, and you can't get it perfect, and nothing's going to be perfect. But I want to do a good enough job in the evaluation process of finding out as much as I can about who this person is that's coming onto my campus. And I promise you, I can do the best job possible of trying to figure out what kind of character they have. And I'm still not going to know until they've been here 3 or 4 months. And they're not going to know who that coach is until they've been here for 3 or 4 months. So that's finally, but the truth is, if we don't go through that process, then shame on us, all of us, because that we've got to do a good job in the front side so that the actual experience during those 4 years together works. So I look for character, number one. I want to find out as much as I can about work ethic. I still have yet to find a prospect who says, when I ask the question, tell me about yourself, well, coach, I'm probably the laziest coach or player you're ever going to have. I really don't like practice that much. I like playing, but I usually like to have a cart. And I'm not very interested in, he's not going to say that. Every single prospect says, coach, I'm a hardworking kid, hardest working guy you're going to have. So I need to get past that little facade and get in the real dirt and figure out, is he really a hardworking kid? Does he understand what hard work is? So character, hard work, and then perspective. Does he do things outside the game of golf that have value? And because I don't think I'm going to be a golf coach 24/7. I don't expect him to be a golfer 24/7. I want to know what else he does. And then obviously grades. If he needs to be a good student to be able to come to Baylor, that's for sure. And, if you're talking Harvard, if you're going to want to go play at Harvard, you obviously have to be a great student there, or Stanford or something like that. And then there's everything in between, all the way down to possibly junior college level, where maybe the grades aren't as important, but they're still important. So junior college coach wants to know that the kid he's got coming can handle whatever course load they have, because we do miss a lot of school. So character, work ethic, things outside of golf, and then grades. So I kind of put all those things together, and then starts filtering itself out pretty fast.
Yeah, no, you've been at this, you've been at this for, I'm not going to talk about your age here or anything, but you've been at this for a while. Are those things that you can kind of, even if you just get like a resume and a hello, my name is email, can you start to kind of put that picture together, or do you need kind of lots of communication, lots of time seeing a kid on the golf course to kind of be able to paint that picture of who they are?
Yeah, you need more time. And so right now during this coronavirus, when coaches aren't able to go out and evaluate on a golf course, it's a little tougher because we're getting a lot of resumes. I mean, before you started this call this morning, I had 3 new emails from prospects that I don't know. And so he's not playing right now, that prospect A, and prospect B is not playing. Prospect C, he's no tournament golf right now. So I want to, when we get back out on the road, I want to watch. I want to see how they handle the pre-round, the post-round. I want to see how they handle bad golf. I hope that they play some bad golf so that I get to see that. I want to see how they handle a volunteer. I want to see how they handle a rules official that's giving a ruling, mom and dad that are walking along. I want to see how that looks. So all of those things you start to add up. So, and then eventually you've got a full picture of who the young man is. I get a lot of recommendations from people, and phone calls and letters and emails and different things, text messages about players. I always appreciate those, and I think they're necessary, but that's not the end. Just because Jim Smith said it's great, it doesn't mean I need to go a little further. So I think this whole process, you can't hide who you are. You can maybe behind a video screen or an email or whatever, but eventually when the rubber meets the road and that young man's on campus, I'm going to know a lot about him, and I'm going to find out a lot about him. I'm just going to do a better job on the front side of doing everything I can to one, let him know I don't want him to think I'm something I'm not. So from my standpoint, I'm also going to try to do a good job of, this is me and this is who I am. And neither one of us can hide that when we get on campus and we've been here for 3 months. We can't hide it anymore. So you may as well not hide it on the front side.
Right. Kind of within, like you said, you got those 3 resumes even just this morning. I know you talked about, you want references, people you can contact maybe that are just kind of in their community, but is there anything else on a resume that you're specifically like, aside from grades, maybe a small little niche thing that you're like, I want to see that they hit their 7-iron 215 yards. Like, is there anything like that you want to see? And on the contrary, is there anything on a resume you don't really care about that you end up seeing more times than not?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I like TrackMan numbers just to give me a baseline, just something. I like a video, and 99% of the coaches don't want it in slow motion. Do not give me a video in slow motion. Give it to me in real time. just a couple of driver swings, one face on, one down the line, a couple of 7-iron swings, one face on, one down the line, at full speed, at regular speed. That's all you need. You don't need a 30-minute video.
Right.
I think it's good when in the resume or in the email or in whatever you're sending, however the medium is that you're sending it, is that it stands out some way or another, that it's not just a form letter. When I'm writing donors, in fact, I was writing donors this morning, I'll write about 50 letters today to talk about our All-Americans to the donors. These are handwritten letters. I don't want these donors to think that this is a form letter that I just typed one time and changed the name at the. I don't want that, and that's what I get a lot of times. I don't know how many times I've been called Coach Hybl or Coach Bratton. Or, I'm not Coach Hybl or Coach Bratton. And they've been called Coach McGraw as well, because kids are trying to send it out to 500. You're talking about casting a wide net. I completely agree with that, but in that process, make sure that what you're saying is absolutely specific to that school. Do your research. Go online, find out as much as you can about that school, that coach, that program, their statistics, and then include a little bit of that when you write Coach Smith or Coach Johnson or whomever. It may take a little more time, but you know what? Kids spend a lot of time wasted on social media. A lot of other times, if you want to do something, market, instead of marketing goofy skills, market your golf skills, market who you are as a competitive athlete, so that, which means you're going to spend more time in the evening after homework resume writing and sending out. I'm going to send out 5 letters tonight. They're all going to be good ones. They're going to be to these 5 coaches, and do your homework and figure out, does this make sense for me to send it? You know, I average 78. Should I really send it to Jay Sewell at the University of Alabama? That 78 is not going to help his team. I promise you. Now, it will help another team. Find the team that it will help. Don't sell yourself short, though. And you said cast a wide net. I completely agree with that. And dream big. But also understand, if you don't get a response back from a Power 5 conference, top 5 ranked team, there's probably a reason. Is there anything I don't want on there? I don't want it to be a form letter. You can have any information you want on there, but make sure that it doesn't just sound like you've sent it to 500 coaches, because I get those. I just got 3. I don't know. I haven't looked at them, so I don't know if they're well written or what they are, but have your parents engage in the process and help you out a little bit, whatever it is. But you have to stand out, because there's 2 ways to stand out. And that the very first thing I said on this interview was good golf. You stand out when you play good golf. I mean, do you remember who Jack Nicklaus was? Yes, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember who Larry Henson was?
No, sir.
No. Well, Larry Henson played right in the middle of the Jack Nicklaus era, and he was a good player for a while, but you don't remember his name. Jack Nicklaus's good golf stands out. So that will happen for a prospect. His good golf will stand out, and he will get noticed. But if your good golf isn't quite where it needs to be to really stand out, then stand out in other ways. Show your character in every possible way you can. If it's good character, obviously. You need to be responsive. If a coach emails you, texts you, phone calls you, whatever's legal within the rules, do it right back. Don't wait. I'm very embarrassed anytime it's a week and I haven't responded to a prospect yet. And I always apologize at the beginning. And because I don't want it to be a week. He shouldn't have to wait a week for me to respond. Sometimes it happens, but do a good job of being diligent that way, and keep files, whether it's files in your computer or files, hard copy files of whatever you get, whatever it is, keep files so you know what you've said to coaches. Don't say the same thing in 3 straight letters to a coach. It's just silly that, so those are some of the things I don't want to see.
And I would imagine that, even if you get a player who's sending you, a resume and their stroke average is 65, if you get a form letter and it says Coach Hybl, the good golf speaks for itself, but also it's like, this guy might be a little on the lazy side if he's just sending the same thing to everybody. So it's one of those things when you're trying to differentiate and, makes one person 65 better than another, like little mistakes like that, it shows up and you can almost like translate that to certain things within their character. Would that be accurate?
That is very accurate. And you're trying to tell me that you're a hardworking young man. Work hard in the resume department. You can't, I'm just telling you, and I tell every player I ever in the evaluation process, You can't be great and awesome and hardworking and diligent in your golf life and tell me that you'll be very average in school. I'll be very average in the way I keep my room or what I do with my parents or whatever it is. I'm just going to kind of be average everywhere else, but I'm going to be great at golf. It doesn't happen. I'm telling you what, Jack Nicklaus was the best in golf, period, for 20 years, for sure. He was a great husband, a great businessman, a great golf course designer. He was a great fisherman. He was a great, I mean, he was a great family man. He was a great father. He never spent more than 14 days away from his children. He promised his wife he would do that when he turned professional. And if that meant flying home to spend one night, watch a basketball game, he did it. He was not going to be average, lazy, or slothful in other areas of his life if he wanted to be great at golf. So when you talk about resume, yeah, it's a lot of hard work. Okay. You told me you worked hard. So that's what I need you to do is work hard in this area too. And if I, the coach, am not working hard in this responding or the way this is real. And you can't hide it once they get on campus, and I can't hide from them. So we all need to figure this out and be better at this, or it's just not going to work. And I don't understand lazy. And Kobe Bryant said it one time. He said, I don't understand lazy. I don't understand you people. I don't want to understand you people. So don't be lazy around me. And I don't want to attract that type. And I think every coach says that. And when it comes right down to it, every player and prospect needs to understand that.
Yeah. I mean, whenever you're wanting to be recruited, it's an opportunity to show yourself off and do it in ways that are unique and creative, and that you can be an asset to the university in more ways than just on the course. So I appreciate you. You really shine a light on that in a really kind of creative way. So I'm certainly going to be passing that along to anybody that'll listen. So one of the things you touched on just a minute ago is you said that, maybe if a player shoots 78 and they're emailing big time schools and they're not getting responses, maybe that's a sign, right? But I also, and I'm going to let you kind of clarify and touch on these sort of things. There might be kids that are sending out resumes and emails that are not allowed to get responses. Can you kind of touch on those dates for when communication is not allowed, and then whenever certain things become allowed, and what expectations should be in those periods?
Right. So right now, the class of 2022, that's kids who are sophomores, I'm not even allowed to take a phone call from them. Used to be I could, but a year ago they changed the rule. So I'm not allowed to take anybody who's a sophomore, freshman, eighth graders. I can't take phone calls from them anymore. June 15th, after their sophomore year, I can start texting, writing, emailing, and calling. And we can communicate the whole summer with 2022. So 2022s are pretty excited about that date coming up in a month and a half, because they're going to get to actually start talking to coaches, writing, email. They still can't come on campus. They can start coming on campus, September 1, or I think it's August 1st, but it's right as they start their junior year. They can come on campus for visits. And they've upped the year where you can take official visits. So you can actually take one of those official visits paid by the school in your junior year now. It used to be it was just senior year. They've moved that up. But they've also moved up the communication where you can actually communicate for that summer. So you get to know each other a little bit through phone calls and emails and text and whatever. And then then you come and take a visit, hopefully in the fall. So those are some of the dates. I can't ever do anything more than exchange a casual greeting with a player at a tournament. So if a coach is having a full-blown conversation during the tournament with any player, he's not allowed. After July 1, after your junior year, you can have off-campus contacts. You can have 3 of those. So at a tournament, after they finish the tournament, sign the scorecard, and they're released from the tournament, you could actually have a kid who's going into a senior year. It's after July 1. You could do that. There's a lot of rules, and if the coaches don't know them all, I think it would be rare if the parents or the prospects knew them all either. So it's good when you can get that information. If somebody writes me a letter at 2022, and in my computer, one of those is a 2022 this morning, I can't write him back. I think you're allowed to write back, thank you. I'm not allowed to correspond with you until June 15th. I can say that. And I'm only allowed, this will be my only communication with you until that time. Not allowed to talk to you. So just, there's the rule. So I think that's the one thing you're allowed to do is actually tell them the rule, but you can't say anything about, oh, look forward to recruiting you or look forward to seeing you at the U.S. Junior after June 15th. No, can't do that. It's literally to tell them the rule. But basically, they should know, but they don't. And since they don't know the rule, you want to make sure they either know the rule or you just put them in a file, and June 15th, you contact them. So,
well, that's what I was going to ask. Like, obviously, if there's no communication allowed before, after your sophomore year, some people might think like, what's the point of even doing anything until that date? But would you say there's value in emailing coaches your resume and a tournament schedule and, hello, how are you sort of email 8th grade, freshman year, sophomore year before that communication is allowed to at least get on a coach's radar? Would you recommend that?
Absolutely, yes. For a couple of reasons. One, a coach will be going to tournaments. So it'd be good if he knew that you were going to be there. So that's important. So at least the coach would know that you're going to be at that tournament in Indianapolis or wherever it is. At least he knows you're going to be there. And he can't say anything to you, but he can watch you play. If he doesn't know you're going to be there, he won't know to look for you. The more times a coach sees a kid's email address, hears a kid, watches his video, the more times those happen, even though he can't respond, even though he can't do any of that, it's fresh on his mind. And I think that's important. And then once the communication can begin, where the coach can actually respond, then it's not like you're a complete stranger at that point. And that's the other thing too, is when you are communicating with a coach, give him something different that's unusual about yourself. Give him something different that he'll remember about yourself. I remember when I was recruiting, I wasn't recruiting him, but when he started recruiting me, Trent Whitekiller, who played golf at Oklahoma State, Trent was, he was a quarterback on the football team. He was a shooting guard on the basketball team, and he was a state champion golfer. I mean, all I saw him was that he won the high school state championship his junior year, but I didn't know he was these other things. He was a great athlete. Well, that was kind of fun. I got to go watch him play a basketball game, the next winter. So, but I wouldn't have known that if he hadn't told me. So if you tell the coach things about you that are interesting, I think it's great because you can build some sort of a relationship. Even if he can't respond, he at least knows those things about you.
Right. Do you like recruiting players that are multi-sport athletes? I know some parents think like, oh, if we're going to go to college, once we start high school, it kind of needs to be a singular focus. I know it's maybe shifted off that a little bit, but I still think sometimes parents especially get nervous about losing a fall or a winter and not competing in golf to play basketball or whatever it is, because they're going to lose, the kid will lose experience and reps in golf. But do you view that even if somebody comes out of playing a different sport and they struggle for a month, do you have an understanding of that? And would you encourage high school athletes to be athletes and play multiple sports?
I would definitely encourage it. I believe that in life you should be well-rounded. And the worst times in my life is when I was so focused and driven on what I was doing that I forgot to live the life that I'm living. So I'm a firm believer in be well-rounded. Johnny Kiefer from San Antonio, who was a freshman on the team this year, he was an honorable mention All-American. So here's an All-American golfer who committed to me in January of his junior year in high school. He was a lacrosse player. He actually had lacrosse coaches recruiting him to go play lacrosse in college. So he was really, really good. In fact, every winter he went back to San Diego and played on his club team over Christmas that he'd grown up playing as a young boy. But his junior year, he didn't play lacrosse for the high school. And his senior year, he called me up right after he signed his letter of intent and said, Coach, I've got something to ask you. It's really serious. And I thought, oh, no, what's he done? Has he done something wrong? And he said, no, I haven't done anything wrong, Coach. I just want to know, I want kind of your blessing to play lacrosse this spring. And I said, sure, absolutely. He goes, really? And I said, yeah, absolutely. You're going to stay in better shape. 2, your competitive juices will be flowing all the time. 3, you're going to be on a team atmosphere. And I need that. I need a guy that loves his team. He loves his teammates, that wants to work that way. And you're going to be coached and pushed and motivated and challenged and held accountable by another coach. I love it. Do it. And, Yeah, was there a potential that he might injure himself? Sure. But I have kids get injured all the time in the weight room, or I have kids get injured on a ski trip, or name it. We live life. And so I have a great amount of people in my profession that are in complete opposition to what I'm saying right now. Absolutely. Totally think it's the most ridiculous thing ever. Get the kid focused on golf and nothing else. But because I have those people that are opposing it, makes me think I might be right. I may just be right. But I think it's important for kids to live life, to enjoy the team sports. They should. I hope that people hear this message, because to think you have to focus, you must focus only on golf is crazy. Because when you're a professional golfer one day and you're on the PGA Tour, are you focusing only on your golf? No. You're focused on a photo shoot you have to do. You're focused on a little basketball game your son has. You're focused on making sure your wife is well taken care of. You've got tons of things outside of golf that are important to you. As a professional golfer, as the #1 professional in the world, you would have the same thing. So why shouldn't that be the same thing for a high school golfer? Why are we making him a professional? Not even really professional. It's unrealistic to think a guy should do something 24/7. It's stupid. So in my opinion, I think that they should play other sports in high school, and I'm recruiting athletes for sure.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's one of those things I almost wish I knew back then, because kind of whenever I was going through the high school process, golfers weren't quite the athletes that they are now. And I just love golf. So I was like, oh, I'm going to play all the time and I love doing it. But I do sometimes wish I was like, I wish I would have played basketball 1 or 2 more years, just for the sake of some variety in it. And also, I'm not as able to play basketball right now at 30. So, it seems like the Dustin Johnsons and the Brooks Koepkas of the world, it's kind of changed the perspective of golfers as athletes. And it seems like, golf, as a golf coach, you want guys who can hop in the weight room and they're vertical, they're jumping all over, they're jumping out of the gym, they're swimming, they're doing all these different things. And because truthfully, it makes them a better golfer too. I mean, that seems to be what I've kind of seen and experienced personally as well.
Well, and make no mistake about it, I'm not saying that if you don't play another sport, you're not going to be a good golfer. I'm not saying that at all. So if you're just a golfer and that's what you want to do, great. But if you want to play other sports, have at it. Like you said, you're more athletic, you're in better shape, you have more explosiveness, you're doing some explosive training, which is great for golf. I mean, awesome for golf. So I'm just a believer in live life, do it in a good perspective, have some balance, do things in moderation. I'm not good at moderation, so this is why I'm speaking from a very good experienced point of view right here. But every single player that wants to play, Mark Reppy, who was a junior on our team this year, asked me the same question. He said, can I play soccer in my senior year? And I said, yes. I recruited Jordan Nieberge at Oklahoma State, my last recruiting class at Oklahoma State, and that I coached. And Jordan was a forward on the basketball team. And Wyndham Clark, who's playing the PGA Tour now, was a point guard on his basketball team. And I encourage those guys to play sports. So if a parent thinks that they're going to lose a college scholarship because their kid is allowed to play another sport, he's wrong. I think he's wrong anyway. I think, and you're going to be more fresh and more excited when you do come out and play golf, and more motivated, and you won't be burnt out. There's so many things in life that when you do them too much and it becomes all encompassing and all focusing, I think you just burn out, and I don't think it's very healthy. So.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. All right, let me transition here to just kind of some of the tournaments that you're recruiting at. We can just touch on this briefly just for kind of some education. But, aside from, the US Junior and just, the AJGA invitationals, what tournaments are you, recruiting at where you're driving there or flying there and watching players? And which are the kind of some of the tours that you put a lot of stock in that you're going to look at results and, if a player's playing there, you put some credence in what they're doing?
Well, a lot of times it's the recruiting class that dictates that, because if I have some people that are really good players from outside the state that are interested in Baylor, then I will go outside the state to watch them play if possible. But if I'm recruiting kids that are in Texas, I'm going to stay in Texas and watch junior tournaments here. There's another school of thought. So that's it right there. It's dictated by who I'm recruiting that particular year. But there's a school of thought that says you you forget about local junior events, forget about statewide events, even forget about regional events. You must only play national events. I don't agree with that. For one, if you're a young man growing up in Springfield and you want to play the PGA Tour, well, 15 years from now, when you're a PGA Tour player, they're writing a story for the Springfield Gazette or whatever, but they have no real results for you in Springfield because you never played there, because you always thought you were too good to play there. That doesn't say very much. Jordan Spieth won the Starburst Junior Classic in Waco, Texas, when he was a young boy. Instead of playing in the Rolex Tournament of Champions in 2008, 9, and 10, he played in the Junior Byron Nelson in Dallas and won it all 3 years. His legacy is in Texas. His legacy started there, and he won everything in the state of Texas. He was not too good or too grand or too amazing. Now, he played in national events too because he was the best player in the country. But I will tell you, he built his legend in Texas, and people haven't forgotten that. So don't be afraid to play near your home. Don't be afraid to dominate near your home. Don't be afraid to win near your home. Oh, well, it's just the city championship, or it's just the state high school, or whatever. Don't think that way. If it's important, and then the other point that I'm going to make regarding that is, I think it's more valuable as a coach to see a young man who's playing in the state junior or whatever, who has a lead with 1 round to go. I think it's hugely important to see how he handles that lead or within 1 shot of the lead, as opposed to going and playing in a national tournament, and after 3 rounds, he's in 38th place. Probably pretty good to be in 38th place in a national event after 3 rounds, and I wouldn't disparage somebody who wanted to go play in a national event. But where do you think you're going to get the most bang for your buck as far as competitive experience? Being 1 shot ahead or just finishing middle of the pack? So I'm not saying don't play into national tournaments. Do play national tournaments when you get the opportunity. But don't think that playing locally, statewide, or regional is a bad thing, because being near the lead is a great thing. And you notice that senior tour players, Champions Tour players, they come out and they just start winning right away. Well, what have they done? They haven't been real competitive on the PGA Tour in a while. So they get back in there in that hunt, and they can't wait. And you got guys like Bernhard Langer, who's played well into his 60s as a competitor. He loves competition. There's no substitute for it. So this is a long-winded answer. I apologize.
No,
but
please
don't be afraid to win in your home state. Don't be afraid to win the state high school championship. Don't be afraid of that, because it has value. And it has value, and you're learning how to win. I think one of the greatest female players of all times is Michelle Wie. And at 14, she was winning. But then they started playing her against professional men's golfers. And this is a big-time criticism on my point, but she quit winning. She forgot what it was like to win. She should have been the greatest female player of all times. And she was a very good player, but not like she forgot how to win, in my opinion. So don't be afraid to know how to win.
Right. And I can speak to that as well. I mean, I played in, I don't know, 2014, maybe a mini tour event, had 5 players, and we were playing for like $300 first place. And I went into a playoff, and it was like a 4-hole playoff. And I remember I had like the 3rd hole, I had to make like a 6-footer to continue it. And I was nervous. And it was one of those things where, like, I took that experience to then a Korn Ferry Monday qualifier where I'm in a playoff and I've got a 6-footer, and the feeling was the same to me, like, because I cared and I was nervous. But I thought back to that ridiculous mini tour event with 5 guys, and I was like, you made that 6-footer in the playoff, you can make the 6-footer here. And the level of competition couldn't be more different. But I just believe that putting yourself in positions to win, have putts that mean something to you. Because, maybe if you're in, you take a step down competition wise, maybe it doesn't necessarily mean as much on hole 1, 2, and 3, but by hole 18, when you're coming down, your feet are to the fire and you care about golf in general, like, those putts matter, those shots matter, the touch on your wedge shot, it all matters. And it can translate whenever you do play on different levels of competition, that I believe. Like I said, that's my personal experience. And I think it kind of speaks to what you're saying, like, learn to win, learn to be competitive, learn what your body does whenever you're under the gun and it matters, and just grow as a player from that.
For sure. I think that every major champion, when they interview him, all the interviews that are done subsequent to that victory, at some point, the player brings up, yeah, I used to make that putt to win the Masters on the putting green when I was a little boy. Meaning we've already rehearsed this over and over and over thousands of times. And so if I skip that process and just say, I'm going to go play national tournaments from the start, as soon as I can get in them, again, I'm not saying don't use that as a goal. I want to play in national tournaments. I want to. I think it's important to be able to do that, but don't skip a step of learning how to be competitive. The fact that you made the 6-footer for $300 and the fact that you made the 6-footer to Monday qualify into a Korn Ferry event, it's the same thing. It's competition. And I think a lot of people are duped into thinking if you going and finishing 38th in a national junior tournament is more important than winning the state high school. And I don't agree with it. And I never will. I won't agree with that ever. So.
Yeah, I'm with you. I want to transition a little bit into just kind of talking about walk-ons, because one of the things that I've seen in kind of my limited experience kind of helping some of the junior golfers out here in Southwest Missouri is that there are some kids who just believe coaches are going to come knocking at their door no matter what. And if for some reason they don't, they're just going to go walk on to one of the Division I schools in the area. I just want to kind of hear your perspective just to kind of help translate it to some of the kids around here. How many walk-ons without a promised roster spot, have you had? And if a kid or a family said, you know what, I'm from Austin, I'm just going to go to Baylor and walk on, but they didn't really understand how that works. Can you kind of speak to that a little bit?
Well, I will say that it's different at every school. Some schools actually have a walk-on tryout every August, and the winner of that walk-on tryout gets a spot on the team that year. And actually, I think that's kind of intriguing. But we are limited in our roster sizes. So every coach is going to treat that differently because every spot's pretty valuable on the team. So I would say that since it's different at every school, it's harder to give a definitive answer to your question. But
right.
Just understand that if you are on the team, on the roster of any college golf team in the United States, that coach owes you something. He owes you his time. He owes you his effort. He owes you his interest. He owes you his skills. He owes you resources. He allows you on the team. That's a pretty valuable spot. And so I don't think walk-ons are thrown around maybe as loosely as they used to be as far as that's concerned. I think that coaches are starting to realize that everybody you add should add value to the program, whether it's in the score or not. And I think when you start adding a bunch of walk-ons, it's a little dangerous because you end up with kids that are unhappy, that aren't getting to play. We only travel with 5 to a tournament. So every time I add a player, there's one more kid that'll be at home unhappy. So usually this is taken care of by roster limitations. And so if a school like Alabama doesn't want you to walk on, they obviously don't think you have the game to walk onto their school, but maybe there's some place you could find. And there have been stories of walk-ons who have succeeded, but in general, walk-ons end up sitting. They don't do a lot of competing and traveling and playing for that university. Doesn't mean that they won't develop their game, but that's all we're trying to do anyway. Whether I'm the number 1 ranked junior player in the country or a kid that averages 78, I'm trying to develop what skill I have, and that's life. I bet you're a better interviewer every time you do this. You know why?
I'm doing it more.
You're doing it more, and you're developing your skills of interviewing.
Yeah.
That's why I think you do a good job at it. I bet you weren't quite as good the very first time you thought about doing this. And I think that's what we try to do is I want to get to a place where it will allow me to develop the skill I do have. If I can do that, then I've got a chance. I'm not putting it past anybody to play the PGA Tour one day. Even a kid like Zach Johnson who had to go to Drake because Iowa didn't want him to walk onto their program. And I'm not criticizing Iowa. It's very understandable. He probably wasn't good enough to go there at the time. But he went to a place where he could play and compete and develop his game. And that is why the walk-on's a little bit dangerous because it can be thrown around like it's no big deal. It doesn't cost anything. Yes, it does. It costs a lot of resources, time, effort, coaching staff, attention. There's a lot of things that coach has to give to even a walk-on so it's not free. So it needs to make sense. But I would say as a prospect or a parent, I would do everything I could to get in a spot. If it's going to be a walk-on position, at least a spot where potentially you could develop into a player that could travel on that team.
Right. You want the coach to at least know who you are when you're on campus, not showing up randomly. Like I said, I think a lot of kids and their families, maybe they don't understand the process and it's too late. And the kid's a senior when he decides he just wants to try, and he just assumes college golf is like high school golf where you go to a meeting and then that's the team. So, like I said, I asked that question in a way where I just want to kind of help people understand that in college, there's a walk-on spot with a roster spot guaranteed. Some of those exist, but the idea that you can just go to campus and be like, I'm here, where's the gear? That just doesn't really happen. So
it's not very normal, actually.
Yeah, no, so I appreciate you kind of opening up on that and sharing as you can. So the last question I have for you before we kind of go into a couple specific questions I've received from parents, and you've touched on this in a variety of ways. So maybe if you just want to give a quick, whatever you would, like a paragraph on what you would say here is, what is the best advice that you would give to a junior golfer who wants to play in college at any level? Just one little bit of advice you would give to them.
One is what I said earlier was communication. It's important to communicate. I think it's important to put down, because you're talking about college golf, to put down a list of things you want to get out of the college experience. What are the most important things? Prioritize those for you personally. Because I don't know if Kevin Kring had the same dream or goal or aspiration that Mike McGraw had in 1977. I don't know if you had the same ones. There were probably some overlaps and similarities, but I bet you wanted some different things out of college than I did. So I think that exists for everybody. So put down the list of things that you want, and then as you're going through this process, you're going to see which coach, which university, which program checks off more of those boxes for you, or more of those important, and put them in priority. Like if somebody checks off 4 boxes, but they're at the way bottom of this list and the top ones aren't even attended to at all, it's probably not a place for you to go. So that's what I would do for one. Then I would communicate well and communicate often. I would work so hard that they couldn't keep me off their roster. I don't know how that's kind of silly, because I worked hard and I ended up being a golf coach. So I was a hardworking kid, but I got to be a golf coach for a living, and I love it, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. But communicating, working hard, and then making sense of the whole process by looking at what's important to you.
Right. That's great advice. I mean, I think that's easy to understand, easy to follow, and through the right bits of education like this, I think kids, I think kids are willing to do what it takes, but a lot of them just don't quite understand what this whole process looks like. And I think it's made especially kind of confusing with when communication is allowed and when it's not and stuff like that. So, like I said, my goal is just to be able to educate these kids, because I'm just so thankful for the opportunity I had at Colorado, and even just being recruited. I feel like I learned so much, whether it was from, you when you were at Oklahoma State, or Coach Higgins at Texas A&M, like the coaches that I built a rapport with. It was just such a valuable time for me to kind of grow up and mature, and then getting to play in college and having that sort of family experience. I want people to experience that, because it was just such an amazing time in my life. And like I said, it doesn't matter if you're playing Division 1, 2, 3. It's just a unique time in your life, and I just want more people to be able to experience that. So I'm grateful for just you coming on and in general with us today, and sharing all that you have. And
to your point, can I show you a photograph?
Please, yes.
All right. Tell me when you can see it. Well, can you see it?
Yeah. What team is that?
That's the 1981 Central Oklahoma Broncos, and that's in my
awesome.
trophy case. One of those guys played the PGA Tour, Robin Freeman.
Okay.
And no one else did. We were all but I have a great rapport with those guys to this day, just because it was an NAIA school at the time in Central Oklahoma. And, to me, that is no less important to me than playing on the team at Baylor is to my guys today. I mean, that's important to them. You developing relationships, you are. And by the way, that was a school where I was good enough to go play. I competed and was on the team the entire time I was there, and traveled to every event. So, or almost, there's one story behind why I didn't travel to one event. But the idea is that's important to me still. It's important enough for me that it's in my trophy case here in my office. It's important that you find a situation like that, whether it's NAIA, Division I, mid-major, Power 5 conference, whatever it is. But that's why this process is huge, that you find a situation where you can thrive and you can develop lifelong relationships.
Absolutely. Well, let me dive into the questions. I've got specific questions I've received from parents. And you can kind of take you've touched on some of these things already, but I just want to make sure they kind of get specifically answered in one way or another. The first one here is, at what point should a senior in high school consider picking a college and attempting to walk on versus waiting for a college to sign them? So I take that as like, basically, when is it like too late in the senior year to be like, hey, I have an opportunity, let me just try to get a walk-on spot sort of thing? Does that time exist?
Yeah, I think it's probably too late your senior year to expect those opportunities to be out there, because the coach has probably filled his roster with the 2 or 3 guys, 2, maybe 3 guys he signed in the fall. And so I don't think that is as realistic anymore. Think about it. Most of these teams are going to add 2, maybe 3, maybe, but most of the time 2. Do the math. Think about how many junior golfers there are. Think about how many colleges and universities and junior colleges provide opportunity for spots on a roster. Doing the math, it's like eventually you run out of spots. So that's why this whole process, I think waiting till your senior year is a little bit late nowadays, late into your senior year to walk on, unless you're communicating in a constant way with a bunch of schools, and that there's still communication. If you're just starting the communication at that point, you better just hope for an opportunity that won't exist, and play really good in amateur golf that summer, win the state men's amateur, and get some people interested that way. But that's why I'm saying communication is so important. I don't know anything in life that's not enhanced by great communication. I know nothing that isn't better when you communicate well. And I know very few things that aren't destroyed because of lack of communication. Some of the worst times in my coaching career have been when I didn't communicate or communicated poorly. And so that's why I think in this process, communication is very important. And remember, you might get the delete button from a bunch of coaches, and that's fine. At least they're not interested if they didn't respond. But if you're communicating and they're communicating, something could come from this. And so I think that's the number one thing, is communicating early and often. And then by the time you're a senior, you already have enough relationships developed with coaches that one of those spots could emerge. But I think it's too late to start then and expect a spot.
Right. Absolutely. Next one here is, and I know you touched on this one earlier as well, but how much stock do you put in swing videos? And I'll say this as a, kind of what I've seen is, I've seen some kids wait to send a swing video to a coach until they get a lesson to make sure it's less laid off at the top. Little things like that. I mean, whenever you get a swing video, is there anything you really care about aside from like speed and just how the swing correlates to what their scores are?
Well, speed is great. And now you're putting a golf swing to a resume. So this resume You've seen, so it's good to have that. But, somebody talks about a laid off position or whatever. I mean, I've got a picture of Ben Hogan up here. That looks laid off, but that's just in a transition spot. That's just, he's moving in action, and they stop the action right there. Jack Nicklaus, if he had to send out his flying right elbow in a recruiting video to all the coaches, they would all look at that flying right elbow and said, I don't think so. Jim Furyk, I'm not sure his video would have wowed anybody. But to me, he's got one of the most beautiful golf swings in the last 30 years on the PGA Tour, because it reproduced itself all the time, and he trusted it, and it was dependable. That's a beautiful golf swing. And people will tell you that beautiful golf swings look a certain way. They don't. Beautiful golf swings create repetitive golf shots. That's what a beautiful golf swing does. So, as I said earlier in the interview, I think it's important that you will take about 4 swings. Maybe I told you this before the interview, but a driver swing face on, a driver swing down the line, 7-iron face on, 7-iron down the line at full speed. Don't give me slow motion. I want it at full speed so I can see what you've got there. And that's all you really need. To produce a 30-minute video that costs your parents $5,000 is not really necessary. Just a quick shot of, okay, well, when I go to Indiana, I'm going to watch for this kid. At least I've got an idea that I like that golf swing. I think some of the, but funny looking golf swings do not scare me away. If the kid's got a great resume and I see this interesting looking golf swing, doesn't scare me one bit.
Yeah. I'll tell a quick story. Just this is involving you, but I remember I think it was the 2006, maybe 2007. It was the AJGA event at Oak Tree, and I remember you were out there recruiting, and I just finished my round. I shot like a 74, and you came up to watch me on the range, and I remember distinctly. I kind of looked out the corner of my eye, and I saw you. I mean, you were pretty close, but we couldn't communicate or anything like that, even though we had a previous relationship from our unofficial visit. But I remember I got so nervous. I was like, oh, because I knew my swing was not like aesthetically pleasing. Some people told me it looked like Jim Furyk's. So I was like, uh-oh. So I just started hitting punch shots in front of you because I was like, maybe I can show off a couple low stingers here with this 6-iron. And then, you kind of moved along and went out elsewhere on the course. But I just remember I looked over and I got nervous because I was like, my swing's not going to impress them, even though like, you didn't care. Like you knew what everything was all about. You knew what my scores were, but I was just a little bit self-conscious. I was like, oh man, I don't know. So let's just go ahead and hit some punch shots out here for him and show off my recovery ability.
Well, and it's funny when I'm recruiting either on the range or in tournament, when a player gets nervous, I take that as a good sign. It means they like me. They like Baylor. They like where I am, that they're nervous enough to be nervous. But I would think this, if you're going to, why are you getting more nervous with me than you would be hitting that 6-iron on the last hole tomorrow in the lead group? That's where they really ought to be nervous, not in front of a coach. I mean, heck, I'm not playing for a living. You are. I've played more bad golf than you have. Look at me. I'm working for a living. You are still playing. So don't be nervous around me. But if you are, I'll take it as a good sign. It's like, yeah, he must want to come to my school.
Yeah, no, that's all. That's great. And like I said, I just remember that really, really well. I remember what I was wearing that day and everything. And I was like, well, this is what I'm really good at. So let's show off here. The two questions left here, and these are just kind of involving parents on the golf course. I'll kind of lump these together. But whenever you talked earlier about the dates that you can have communication with players, do those dates exist for parents on the golf course when you're recruiting as well?
They're a little. And
different. Then the other part I was going to throw into there too, just whenever you're out recruiting and you do see parents, do you look at their demeanor and their attitude just as much as you're looking at the players' attitude and demeanor and those sort of things?
Yeah, those are good questions. One, July 1, after their junior year, when I told you could have 3 off-campus contacts. But remember, I also told you couldn't talk to a player during the tournament. But you may walk with a parent in the tournament if it's after July 1, after the prospect's junior year, and you can have an off-campus contact. So if the parent wants to talk to you under those parameters, that you may do that. But other than that, like the kids in the 8th grade and the parents walking along, I can't do anything other than exchange a casual greeting and leave. I've got to get away from them. So it's essentially at a tournament, it's a little different. If the kid is of age, you can talk to the parents and count it as a contact if it's after July 1, after their junior year. But relative to, am I watching the parents' demeanor? Absolutely, I am. My dad saw me hit 2 competitive shots, not because he didn't want to, it's because he worked. So it was a different day and time. It was early 70s. But he saw me hit the tee shot at the 1971 Oklahoma City Junior Invitational. First tee shot that he had to lead. He dropped me off for the tournament and left. And then he saw me hit a 7-iron at the state high school championship when we were hosting at the Ponca City Country Club. He only got to see me hit 1 shot, 2 in my career. Not because he didn't want to, it's because he couldn't. So nowadays, parents have made it a little more normal for parents to be at tournaments. And so we're going to see parents, and that's great. And I look at it as support, which the young men need. But also, I don't want to really see the parents cleaning off the golf clubs for the player. I don't want to see the parents carrying the golf clubs from the parking lot to the practice range for the player. I don't want to see the parent making sure that every need is taken care of. I don't mind carrying umbrellas. I don't mind, extra bottle of water or whatever, because those are things you need. But as far as just carrying a bag in from a parking lot, I can do that on my own. I'm only 16 years old. Surely I can do that. I think it's important that if the parent is taking care of too many of the details, it might be just a little bit overbearing. Maybe I want to see if the kid can handle this on his own. And that's a lot of the reasons why I get there really early, because I want to watch kids coming in from the parking lot to see what that looks like. And do I criticize parents who do that? No, I've never been a parent, so it's hard for me to be critical in that nature. But I do want to see if a kid is self-sufficient And if a kid misses a putt and looks straight over to his parents, what happened, or needs a reaction from his parent, that's probably not ideal. You know, I think, who said it? I don't know, a baseball coach, baseball manager said that he said he really liked baseball before he had to wear a uniform, because it was just me and my 6 buddies, and we went out and got together a little game of stickball together, and that's the way we did it. Nobody organized it for us. Nobody did anything for us. We did it ourselves. He said that was pretty pure, and the pure love of the game we were playing. So I sometimes think if the parents are too involved, it's a little tough on the kids. But I think it's great that parents do support the young girls and boys that are playing junior golf nowadays, and I think it's great. But it's also awesome to see, you asked about demeanor, just I want to see that looks like. It'll tell me a lot about what I'm going to expect when they get on campus.
Yeah, you don't want, we've been in golf long enough. We've seen the parents who get upset at kids, make excuses for certain behaviors, those sort of things. And, it's certainly what we're trying to avoid within all of this is, you don't want a helicopter parent. You don't want someone who's going to call you when their kid doesn't qualify for the first tournament. You don't want that sort of thing. You want a kid who's just going to work hard and get better, right?
I think so. And I think most coaches feel that way. I think most coaches feel that way in college golf.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Coach, that's everything I have for you today. I mean, I can't be more appreciative of your time. I said I don't want to talk about your age, but you've been in the sport for a long time, and you bring so much wisdom and knowledge to this whole process and the whole situation. So I'm really appreciative of that. And then on a personal note, I just really appreciate all the support and encouragement you've given me over the last 16 years, 15 years, whatever it was since we first met. So I'm just really appreciative of that as well.
You bet. Well, Kevin, thanks for having me on today. I hope this was helpful, and I hope, and the other thing I would add is any parents or prospects that are having any questions about things we talked about today, and they should call the coach if they're of age and ask the question, is this, what do I do? Or they need to try to find out answers because you can't assume that you know all the answers. So, heck, some of the coaches don't know all the answers. So,
right. And that's where I want to say too, like if parents or players aren't allowed the communication with, that's where I try to be a resource with collegegolflocal.com and the College Golf Local Facebook page, where we're just trying to get as much information and education out there as we possibly can. So
right.
It's a lot out there. So Coach, again, thank you so much for coming on with us. I hope that you and the fam and the dogs are able to, survive this time at home well, and that you're able to kind of, grow in all of your relationships, but then, you kind of come out rejuvenated for whenever we're able to get back out to normal life as well.
Yeah, looking forward to that for sure. Absolutely.
All right.
Thanks, Kevin.
All right, Coach. Well, be well, and I will talk to you soon. Okay.
Okay. Thanks a lot.